If you're a Beatles fan like I am, you'll never get enough of them, and that includes their post-breakup solo albums. And as a fan of live albums, that started me down quite a rabbit hole. The other Beatles have been pretty prolific in capturing their live performances. Paul McCartney so far has racked up 10 official releases of live performances, Ringo 11 with his all-star band and others, of course, and even Lennon is credited with 3. George Harrison only has 2 live albums. The first being 1971's The Concert for Bangladesh, which had a myriad of guest stars. The second, Live in Japan, was released in 1992, and that captured his December 1991 tour of, well, Japan. Why Japan? Trust me, we'll get there. First of all, why did such a beloved musician wait 20 years between concert albums? Well, it's complicated. To begin with, during the Beatles' touring days, they were often rushed around, grabbed, pushed, had their clothes torn off as souvenirs. They were forced to hide out in hotel rooms for days at a time. They also experienced pathetically underperforming sound systems, repetitive set lists, and they often even couldn't hear themselves play over the deafening roar of their adoring fans. George, being a particularly private person, was the one who found the mayhem of Beatlemania the most exhausting, and more than once considered quitting due to the stress. With the Concert for Bangladesh being recorded over only 2 shows on the same day in 1971, he did not mount full-scale live tour again until 74. That tour, although not the financial failure often reported, it generated $4 million in revenue. You adjust that for $25, that comes out to over $26 million. The reviews were all over the place, with the most negative ranging for the roughness of his voice from overexertion to the questionable amount of time he allowed Ravi Shankar to draw focus on the set list. Let's be honest, Shankar is great, but they were there to see a Beatle. The entire experience left such a bad taste in his mouth, it would be another 17 years till he did another tour, preferring to retreat to the studio, his garden, and eventually his family life. Harrison's career was revitalized by the success of the 1987 album Cloud 9, as well as his collaboration with the Traveling Wilburys albums. And despite having been an active presence in the music scene for most of the last 20 years or so, suddenly George Harrison seemingly re-emerged, and his best friend Eric Clapton convinced him it would be a good time if he wanted to do a concert tour. Clapton had just wrapped up his 24 nights tour and suggested that his band, all seasoned and ready musicians, would be a great backup band to get Harrison back out on stage. After this initial invitation from Clapton and refusal by Harrison, Clapton eventually convinced him to tour Japan in late 1991. The fact that Clapton's band was in such great shape by that point and could serve as a backing band for the out-of-practice Harrison gave the reticent musician the confidence he needed to actually deserve it. The fact that Japanese audiences were notoriously polite and loved Beatles music helped, as did the reality that a smaller tour of a smaller country would be much more profitable. Harrison and Clapton threw themselves into the task of organizing Harrison's first tour in 17 years. They began putting together a set list. Songs were chosen that were known as singles, hit records, or just a gut feeling they would work for the tour. One obvious example was Taxman, a song that is unfortunately always relevant. Clapton, putting his notoriously formidable ego aside, was happy to take a lesser role on stage so his friend could shine. Clapton himself was indeed given a featured solo spot in the middle of the concert, performing a few of his biggest hits. Together, they performed 12 concerts in 6 different venues over the course of 17 days. And after his initial misgivings as the tour proceeded, Harrison began to relax. He began to consider that perhaps his touring days weren't over. In one interview, he said, "I'm the kind of person who would love to play whatever and wherever I felt like with a band. It might as well be in a hotel in Nebraska, somewhere where no one knows you and you're just in a band situation playing music." After that tour, Harrison was convinced this was something he could do again, and he had hoped to tour more extensively, but fate had another twist in mind. In 1997, Harrison began his 4-year battle with cancer, and regardless of treatment, he succumbed to the disease on November 29, 2001. George Harrison's Live in Japan album has been evaluated and reevaluated over and over in the last 3 decades. People listening to the exact same album have commented with wildly varying reviews, from extensive praise to dismissive disdain. One reviewer complained about Harrison's voice being weak, while another said it was expressive. Clapton's solo on While My Guitar Gently Weeps was stated to be more boring than the one on the White Album by one reviewer, and another one thought it was more exciting. Everyone's welcome to form their own opinion, for what is music if not subjective? But one thing is for sure. Harrison found a newfound love of live performance because of the encouragement and support of his best friend. And whatever you hear in this album, one thing stands out to me. Eric Clapton, one of the most famous and accomplished musicians on the planet, put his own ego on the back burner for his friend's benefit. I'm Jamie Stone, Rock History Savant.